Today we're going to prune some apple trees. Hello, I'm Griff Rees, welcome to Winning Griffith. Here we talk everything beekeeping, farming, countryside living. Now we do reviews as well. Now I've got my friend Patrick Burt with me today. He's a professional high-end gardener. Used to work for the National Trust in their wall garden. You do big expensive gardens, maintaining people's apple trees, big estates, all that kind of, is that kind of work you do, Patrick?
All sorts, yeah. Lots of maintenance and yeah.
So we've got Patrick with me today. He's an old friend of mine. We go back probably 17 years.
Something like
17
that, yeah.
years from our university days. I'll overlay some photos of us back in the day. And he's called Patrick, but I know him as the postman because he always delivered.
Always.
No, he's called the postman because his name was Patrick. A one drunk guy called Richard Turner just said postman, and he was postman for the rest of his life. 17 years later, he's still known as the postman, even though he's a high-end gardener. But Patrick is here. He's been with me on the beers yesterday. And he's kindly said he's going to be willing to prune some of our apple trees. We planted these over the years. They produce apples, some of them don't. We haven't got a clue what we're doing, so we've got an expert with us today on the channel, and Patrick is going to show us how to prune apple trees. And what's the reason that we prune apple trees? Is it to make the tree produce more apples, last longer? Why do it?
Basically, it's just to improve the health of the tree, make it last as long as possible. You know, some of these old orchards will go on for hundreds of years with the same trees and be productive. You just want to keep them rejuvenated, producing fruit, and that's really all it's for. Right,
so do I get my chainsaw? Is that what we do?
Some of these trees maybe, but hopefully most of them, just a pair of secateurs and maybe a handsaw. That's all you need.
Right, well I haven't got that kind of tools. Have you got it in your truck?
Luckily I got it with me. So, come on.
Let's go. Right, here's postman's pickup. Right, is that all we're using?
Pretty much, yeah. Step ladder, just a folding saw. This is a roughneck one. There's loads of different brands. Yeah, anything from like 15 to 30, 40, 50 quid, whatever you want. But you know, all the new ones are pretty sharp. They're all pretty reliable. So yeah, I think that was about 25 quid. These secateurs are from Niwaki, which is this brand here. Really good high quality stuff. I've had these for probably 4 years now. Not looked after them particularly well. I think these are about 70, 80 quid new. But I'll give them a sharpen now because I haven't done it for a while and cleaned them off. So what I use from the same company, they sell camellia oil. So the camellia plants, which are flowering now in the spring, the oil from that is really good for cleaning blades. So you can see here all the dark staining and stuff. We'll clean that all off and then we'll give them a sharpen and they'll be ready to go.
That looks like a Japanese make.
It is. It's a British brand. It's a chap. He runs a company. I think he lives in Dorset. He spent decades and decades over in Japan, and he's got a really good relationship with really like master tradesmen over there. So all the produce, all the tools and everything he makes are in Japan, and they're imported into the UK. Real high-end stuff. There's all different types of secateurs, shears for curved shears for pruning topiary and all kinds of stuff. And they do tripod ladders. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Just like beekeeping, you've got purpose-built kit for specialist jobs. Right, we let Patrick sharpen these and we'll get straight into the trees. Now, I'm no expert, but this isn't looking very good.
No, it's not. I think one of the main problems is someone, I'm assuming you, who got a bit closer to the strimmer or the lawnmower, and you can see it's rocking in the ground. That just means the roots aren't fully established, hence why it's blown over. You could prop it up and things if it if it was fairly healthy, but I think this is one for your chainsaw, Griff.
More firewood to keep Angharad warm in the winter. Right, so there's no point doing nothing in this. We're better off taking this one out and planting a new one there in this place.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of, I suppose it's like when you find bees and there's no queen, there's a drone layer in there. You can't fix it, and it's the same with apple trees, I suppose. This one's finished. Don't invest any time and money into it.
No.
Just move on.
Get a new one, like probably a 1 or 2 year old whip. It'll already be almost as tall as that, and you know, give it a year to establish, and it'll be grown away. Way stronger than this will ever be.
Right, this one looks okay.
Yeah, it's pretty vigorous. You see from last year, it's grown from about this point up to there, so probably about 10 inches of growth. It's quite a nice open shape. There isn't too much damage. What you're always looking for is dead, damaged or diseased bits of wood. That's what you go to when you're pruning out to start with. And then from there, anything that's crossing and rubbing, you know, you'll get damage then on both of those branches. So as long as you take that out every year as a minimum, you can't really go far wrong. So this one's pretty good. There's a few that are rubbing and crossing that we'll take out. Some of these vigorous ones we just reduce back. So instead of putting on, you know, a lot of growth each year, you encourage them to form fruiting spurs, which is what you want. So it's just that balance of keeping the tree growing with some strong, vigorous shoots, and the rest you want to reduce down to get fruit. Right, so on a nice, fairly vigorous young tree like this, like I said, you want to take out any dead, damaged or diseased bits of wood. So if you have a look at here, Griff, you can see we've got some physical damage. I mean, some of this might be from rubbing, some might be from pests and diseases, but ultimately everything past this point is going to die off at some point. And because it's going back into the center of the tree, you don't want anything going back inwards. You want, like this tree is, a fairly nice open goblet shape. If the middle's empty, if it gets to a bigger tree, you can climb in and pick the fruit and things. So most things going back in, and certainly because this is damaged, you want to kind of count up 2, 3 or 4 buds, and one on the underside here at the tip of the secateurs there is an outward facing bud, so you just prune it to there. So all of these now, you don't really want any of these side shoots, you just want this main stem going up. So all of these side shoots take back to a healthy outward facing bud. 3 or 4 of them, and that's just, you know, if this starts coming out in good weather, but then you have a late frost, that can quite often die. So you've got several other healthy buds below that, so if you do lose that to frost or anything, you've got another one that's going to replace it. So even this one here is a nice outward facing bud there. And when you cut, you want to cut flat across, just to have the smallest surface area possible. It's all entry points for disease and things.
So no cutting on an angle. You want like quite a level cut.
Exactly. If you were going to take a side branch off a tree and you just wanted to take it as close to that, there's like a collar of bark along there. You never want to cut into it, because a lot of the water comes up cells all the way to the top, and near a joint like that, some of these cells that feed the top of the tree will kind of kink out into this collar and go back up. So instead of cutting flat down, you'd cut across. And again, the way you hold the secateurs as well, if you were to push, you know, down on a branch, it would, you know, likely snap there. So when you're cutting, you don't want the blade pushing down. You want the blade coming up, so you'd cut it like that. So it's just little things like that stop you unduly damaging what you're trying to keep.
Top advice. We'll crack on with this tree and see what it looks like when we're finished. Looking loads better, Patrick.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty healthy young tree. So hopefully by what we've done, all these side shoot reductions. That'll encourage fruiting spurs to develop, so you should have more apples. And then we've left these longer ones, which are nice, strong and vigorous. They're growing, in a nice outward shape. So we'll let them carry on growing. So each year it will gradually get bigger and bigger. You reduce those side shoots to encourage fruiting. That's about it. And any damaged and diseased stuff, we've taken most of that out. So overall, it's a lot healthier and happier.
So how often will you have to trim an apple tree?
Most years, because if they're really vigorous, you'd have all this kind of, new top growth on, kind of up to a foot a year. So a lot of, really healthy, vigorous trees every single year I'd prune the same.
What's your thoughts about sort of, the grass growing underneath the tree? Should we sort of, do a circle of, a mat or something around the tree to suppress the weeds? Is there a competition? Is there a disadvantage, an advantage for, diseases to harbour or whatever? Or
yeah, I mean, there's an element of competition, certainly for the first 5 years of an establishing tree. It's the same for fruit trees, or if you're planting a woodland or anything. You just want to remove competition. So a lot of places, they'll spray with a herbicide or something, or you can just physically remove the grass, have a weed matting, and just put a ring of compost or any well rotted organic manure, whether it's compost or manure, from the farm here. As long as it's well rotted, that'll help it immensely.
Right, this one obviously is leaning the wrong way.
Well, I wouldn't say leaning. I reckon it's one you've driven into with your tractor or something. But yeah, it looks a bit of a mess, but I think if we can get it upright, and it's obviously been like this for a little while, but these are all really strong, healthy, side shoots that have come off. So if we can get these tied to this main stem, which will eventually be cut out, and then upright it again, a new stake and a tree tie, I think it can be a decent tree in a few years.
Right, well, if you try and lift that up, I'll get a sledge to knock this in, and we'll try and fix it.
That sounds good. That's ridiculous. Hammer you could find.
Sledge, the big guns is here, boys back.
The Welsh Thor.
Well, we're going to knock this in.
Yeah.
Right, you may have to hit it, because me being Welsh, I'm not that tall.
I got my step ladder, but you go if I'll go and get it.
Alright, even better. You lean the tree as far back as you can. And I'll come in and knock that post in. So I'll be honest, this has been a pain mowing around. All the moles is making the ground in there. You happy with that?
Yeah, I reckon.
Does it matter if I damage this or are we going to cut that off?
Not so much. Just don't hit me on the head.
We better cut this off, postman, otherwise I'm going to slip and knock you out. I'm alright. Now, there.
So strong, Greg.
13 years as a countryside ranger, knocking posts in. Never lose it. I'll be about right, postman, will
Yeah, I think so.
so what do you need now to tie the tree onto?
Bit of bale of twine.
If that's all you got.
Is that the gardener's worst
I'll go
nightmare?
and check in the shed now to see what I've got.
Nah, lad might have the proper bit of rope. We've only got my favourite rope, bale of twine, which has fixed so much stuff, not just on this farm, but across the whole world. I'm sure this is going to fix this tree as well.
Temporarily, yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Right, so you hold it up. I'll give it the old grip-free snot. So if those wondering what the grip-free snot is, got a cord, cut it in, bend it in half so we've got a loop. I'm going to wrap it round the tree. This is how I tie all the sheep hurdles and gates and everything. And in there, then I can lever back. I've got a bit of a knot there from when that was baled. And you say, postman, when that's tight enough.
Tight as you can go, boy. Can't believe you invented that, Griff. I'm surprised no one's ever thought of that before.
Well, I can't take the credit for it fully. I think it was Angara's dad that taught me how to do it. That's tight enough.
Yeah.
And then instead of taking the 2 of these round the back, you just take 1. And then I've got 2 that I can tie together.
Right, let's
Look at that.
Let's see if the post snaps when I let go. Ah, ideal.
Ah, yes!
So now what we can do is get some more twine, probably halfway up on this stem. This is a really healthy stem, and I think with the damage you got on this old leader, I think eventually this will come off. But for now, it's a good tying point for this one. So we'll tie that as vertical as we can get it, and then in a few years, this old damaged stem can come off, and this should be the new leader then. And we'll tie all these, prune all these side branches like we did on the other tree, and then it's good to go.
And basically, that's going to look like a totally different tree. Started off flat on the ground, not doing much. Now it's looking like a proper tree, and I love we fixed it with a bit of baler twine as well. Right, where are we tying this to, postman?
About halfway up. Normally when you're tying trees, you want to go no more than halfway up, because you want it to be able to support some of its own weight. If you're taking all the strain, with the tie, it's never going to get strong. So a third to halfway up, probably roughly where my hand is.
So put the rope around there?
Yeah.
Now is it better that I put a loop there and choke it? And then use that to stop it slipping?
There's more surface area then. I mean, it's not going to eat into the bark. You just want to check for rubbing, every few months or even once a year.
And then tie it back around here?
Yeah, anywhere around here. And then just tighten it until it looks pretty vertical. About there looks good. There we go, so we got a new leader established, and even after a year we could probably take this rope out and it will have set, because it's quite new and pliable. But yeah, after a year or so, it starts to harden up, so that will probably set in place. You could take that rope off in a year or two, and then cut this old stem out about there.
Right, now that's upright and tied up.
Yeah, we'll just do the rest of the pruning on this tree and then leave it to it. It's had a bit of a shock today, but yeah, I think it'll be good.
So looking like there's a fair bit of damage here, Patrick. So are we going to cut this just underneath? Talk me through what we're going to do.
Well, you always want to look back to where the healthy growth is and then look at the buds. Sometimes with experience you can see if they're alive or they've been damaged.
So we've got one bud there.
Yeah.
Now the GoPro's going to pick this up, and we've got one bud there. So this one's coming out and that one's going in.
Yeah.
So where would we cut it? Would we cut it there or would we cut it there?
We'd want to cut it above this bud here, which is an outward facing bud. Anything inward facing like this one, you just don't want that growth habit going back into the center of the tree. You want gradually an outward facing kind of growth pattern. So yeah, we'll take it to this outward facing bud, just above, you don't want to be too close to the bud, and if anything you want to slope things so you haven't got water running onto the bud that you're keeping, because if you get water sitting near that bud and freezing, that's how you can increase the chances of getting damage to that bud and it will die back. So, but again, depending on gravity, you're just using your internal laser level to see how water's going to run. I mean, with that, water is going to run towards it, but it'd be too big of a cut if you were sloping it back the other way.
Kids helping out, taking the cuttings off.
Yeah, I could do with bringing them home with me. Team of helpers. That's half the thing. You spend as much time, if not more, tidying up all the mess you make.
And someone is tired. Wanted mommy. Well, that tree is looking like a different tree, Postman.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think, yeah, give it a couple of years.
What are we looking at?
But this is another one, some damage up above, but the main issue is this damage here. You can see right to the heartwood in there. So the tree's doing what it should, like where this growth thickens up, it's a term called occlusion. So it's, if you prune a side branch off, over years you'll see almost like a donut shape of this healthy growth. It's just trying to enclose that wound. It's doing the right thing, but basically that's going to fail at that point, in some of these high winds or whatever. So this tree just needs to come out, basically.
And on that note,
give it a good tug.
Let's see if she'll come out. Might have to have your help.
No, you got it,
Oh.
Well, that's all that wrestling a sheep grip. Good practice.
I told Angara she married a proper man.
Yeah, but he just turned off his vehicle.
He is insufferable at times, isn't he?
So what's the best time of year to do this job, Patrick?
Any time really in the dormant period, so once the leaves are off, but generally it'll be December all the way through to late February, depending on the season and whereabouts you are. Obviously I'm in Devon, you are up here in Wales, so we're basically in a straight line up from each other, so we get a lot of the same weather and the same kind of seasonality. Some places up country will be able to do it a bit later.
Well, you picked the right time to come visit us, Postman.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to come every time this year and do it.
Trim this orchard, because the reason this orchard is here, we want apples, but we're a honey farm and bees love apple trees, and hopefully we get a lot more flowers, a lot more apples next year after Patrick has done an excellent job at pruning some of these trees back. Right, so this tree has been a pain, Patrick. I'm coming on with a mower, all this is in my way. What's the best thing? Can we cut these bottom ones off and leave the rest grow big? What's the plan?
Yeah, I mean the tree overall is really healthy. There's hardly any dieback. It's really vigorous. When you've got a really strong tree like that, there's a lot less danger in doing some more major pruning in proportion to the whole thing. So yeah, we'll take both of these stems right off back to the collar tie. You'll get a lot of regrowth next year, but you can just prune that off with the secateurs, and then we'll just see what the rest of the tree looks like once those are off. So again, for speed, as long as you're cutting it away from the final cut, you can just go right through. You don't have to worry about doing undercuts or anything. Just get the weight off like that. Yeah, a good pruning saw's quicker a lot of times than chainsaws by the time you start them up.
Well, that's it, Patrick. Everything looks pretty decent here now. It almost looks like a a different orchard when I look at the tidying up you've done on some of these big trees. They're not going to be in the way of the mower anymore, and hopefully we'll have a bit more apples.
Hopefully it'll make your life a bit easier, yeah, mowing around. They should be a lot healthier, cutting out all that dead and diseased stuff, definitely. And yeah, hopefully you still have a few apples.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I've learned. I've learned anything growing in, touching, looking dead, take that off,
Yeah.
and always cut it above a bud which is growing outright.
Yeah.
So I've learned loads just doing about an hour's work with you here, Patrick.
Like that, yeah.
We haven't been very
Didn't
long,
take long.
going through it.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to follow more of what Patrick is doing, Patrick is starting his own YouTube channel. He's not sure what he's going to call it yet, but there's one there at the minute, and I'll put that in the description of this video so you can see and follow Patrick. It's going to be mainly gardening, so if you're in the garden, growing veg, growing fruits, flowers, all of the above.
Everything garden related. A few motorcycle videos as well, maybe.
So that's it. We'll see you at the next video. Thanks for watching.
Bye.